So, when last we left off, the Left Stars had met with Zazazius, a crazy name for a tabaxi crafter living in a magic tent in a large tree. They explained their art of naming items and those items being granted a soul as a result, coming upon new properties for potentially hefty price. You guys sat on that opportunity for the time being and linked up with Mouse before receiving word from the unifiers who had left you a missive to explain the local Thieves War Guild in greater detail. That night, you guys enacted a plot with Mario, aka Aesop in disguise, flaunting a large emerald, bragging about your riches as you went through the city streets, and were met by an agent of the Jade Mask who, through some sort of summoning, had created some large stone green hounds as backup in an effort to judge your worthiness of the conversation that you asked for. As the battle winded down, they provided a little bit more information about the whereabouts of the Sleight, the other Thieves Guild in town, but insisted that they be the ones made to surrender. And as the conversation sort of wound down without too much more bloodshed, you guys sort of departed ways, but not before Flint stole back the emerald, and we'll just see what happens because of that. But for now, you guys are just mere moments away from, or mere moments after the close of that conversation. The Jade Mask agent went invisible through some means and departed. And you're sort of here in the city streets in the dead of night. And it's quite dark. There's a full moon in the sky right now, so you can all see each other, but it is late. Pretty late. And so what would the party like to do?
Correct me if I'm wrong, DM. Last episode, he mentioned the Jade Mask individual mentioned that the Sleight could be in the Silver District. Now, am I just misremembering that, or was that something that was said?
That was said. Yes. Although you don't really have an understanding of the city's layout yet.
Right. Just enough to clock just those specific words. Okay. Well, I didn't think that we would be able to get our emerald back.
That was pretty slick work there.
Honestly, that was rad as hell. Get it.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Hey.
Oh, the consequences might be disastrous, but it was cool.
I don't expect he'll attack us tonight. But
he's gonna just drop a whole bunch of dogs on our room and just take everything we have.
I mean, all of our worldly goods for some quality dog time seems like a fair trade.
I get the impression he'll take that as, maybe I'm wrong, but seems like this guy would take that as a challenge to just try and sneak in unnoticed and steal a bunch of stuff. But who knows?
I mean, I feel like you're right, and also I won't go to bed. It's nighttime. Do we just go back to the inn and risk our chances?
I was gonna say, if I can sleep outside, if you want me to keep the valuables, it does seem more likely that he would come after you all in the tavern than he would after me under the stars.
He seemed like a relatively skilled caster, so I'm not sure if he would be able to track you down or not, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, I mean, also have no confirmation that he's not listening to this conversation right now.
Very true.
If we did want to have a more private chat, I could help with that.
Well, I think either way, this evening we are going back to either the Guilty Lady or maybe just going the rest of the way to the stem. But we should head in one of those directions.
We don't know if the stem has housing, though.
True. Do we have a sense for how far we are from the stem?
You were given directions and know it to be... I don't know if I've... I shared this with some of you pre-game before, I think, but if you, on the left sidebar, click like the little bookmark ribbon, you should now be able to see locations that you've discovered on the map. And I think the stem is one of those that... you haven't discovered it, quote-unquote, but you were told where it was, and so I put it there.
So we're close, theoretically.
Yeah, but you have not been there, and you don't really know much about it, other than that it's sort of like a richier, fancier place. You do have, I will say, like, you're only really risking, because it's going to take you probably some time to get back to the Guilty Lady, but you don't really risk exhaustion unless you choose to not sleep. You know, getting home late does not actually run that risk.
Preferences? The stem or the Guilty Lady?
I mean, I'm down to try something fancy, I guess. It's been a while since I've done anything fancy and whatnot.
You already spent 60 gold today. What's a couple more?
To the stem.
All right. Just for the sake of it, if you could all also just roll me a perception check. And I will roll for our dear friend Clax.
Ooh, natural 20. Natural 1.
Max and I are doing great.
Do great.
You know, some of you are more bruised
Flynn,
than
you're
others.
doing great too.
So as you guys begin walking, and Aesop, you are still technically in disguise self, because that's non-concentration and it lasts for an hour, so
correct.
It will wear off by the time you get to your destination, but regardless of that, you just are sort of tuning your ears into the quiet city streets, and as you're leaving, you just sort of are getting the impression that the night's activities may have kind of woken up the town a little bit. You know, there was like 2, thunderbolt sort of sounds, and in sort of this one street, and when I think it was Flint had done a shatter spell that had kind of grazed a building.
I think that was me.
That was you?
That
okay.
was me, yeah.
You are just getting the impression that, like, people know that something happened, and you kind of hear from, like, distant windows of, like, what was that? Or, like, something's going on. And there's just sort of, like, you hear the sound of, like, windows opening behind you, kind of, like, from where you were before you started walking. That it has not gone unnoticed that there was kind of a scuffle in this area of town.
Should we split up so that we're not one large group? Meet at the stem?
Yeah, me as Mario can just travel with one person. We can just go in 2 groups, 3 and 2.
We can split up the way we were before, I guess.
Okay. I didn't mean to suggest that you're being like watched or followed, so much as that that that
there's peeping eyes.
There was it's not that people are looking at you. It's that there was a disturbance in the neighborhood and people are looking out into the dark alley, not knowing what happened. So just something to be aware of.
Just in case / maybe misinterpreting the situation, I think Drada's cloak changes to match whatever suit Mario is wearing right now, just to try to further confuse anyone who might be looking by.
Okay. But time brings, an hour passes and you guys find yourself collecting at the front of, you split off into two parties and you're kind of collecting again in front of what seems like a kind of refurbished estate or mansion of some kind that has perhaps been retrofitted to include a carriage house for people with horses or beasts of burden of any kind, as well as sort of like indoor and outdoor dining. There's a number of tables that, though at this hour, it's sort of like, all the chairs are set upside down on top of the tables, and there doesn't seem to really be activity. But this is a kind of like, from your perspective, a 2 to 3 story, or not 2 to 3. It is a three-story building that there's sort of all sorts of like little flickering lights in windows above, and the ground level just seems to be kind of opened up in the front, kind of like in an open air cafe sort of look to it. It does seem, just looking in, relatively quiet. There's nobody really around from where you can see. It's not closed off or barred or anything, but you just don't see anybody at first glance on the inside.
What time is it by the time we get here?
I am asking myself if you don't really have a clock, but I would say you would estimate around 2 in the morning.
That's pretty late. We're still outside the building, correct?
Unless you'd like to step inside.
So I just kind of like look at everyone else, and I'll just walk in as Mario.
Okay.
I follow
Probably.
behind.
That spell's probably almost up by now, but I'll still walk in as Mario. Well, I don't want to like weird things up. So before I go in, I'll drop it.
Okay. Goodbye, Mario. You'll be back.
He will be back very much.
I just love this idea that like ASIP might play multiple characters like throughout the course of the game. Anyway, you all step in, not being quiet about it, and there is a door that swings open from what is behind what seems like an interior office that you see has sort of a window that is facing inside of the inner dining area, and there is a tiefling woman, sort of like with like dark black skin and white hair, that just sort of like raises her chin up and says, "You guys missed dinner. Service closed a while ago."
Oh, that's okay. We're just trying to have a room for the night if there are any available that you might have.
She kind of looks at you, looks at all of you, and I will ask, did anybody like clean up after that fight? Because I imagine some of you are a little bloody at this point.
How much health do I have? I'm actually doing okay. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't take that much, but
yeah, no, I would not have.
I'm not bloody.
I don't think Drada really got hit, but he also is still wearing the Mario blazer.
My hair has as many sticks in it as it usually does, so.
Clax is looking. Clax is looking healthy, but certainly there's a little bit of blood here and there, or dents in the shield, and go ahead.
So before she responds, maybe I can try to clock that she's like trying to like judge us and like where we've been, and I'll say we just got into town, we were traveling all night, and we just really would like a place to rest before the morning.
Roll persuasion check. It's not a pass or fail. It's more of her.
Oof. Ugh. There's my low number.
These twos, though.
Yeah.
I know. There's like 3 today.
Yeah. Get them out of the way now. She sort of looks at you all and says, "And how many rooms would you like? There's 2 beds each. You want 2 rooms, 3 rooms? And are you just staying the night, or are you staying in town for a while?"
Probably just the night, I would guess. 3, I guess? I don't know. Although we could probably do 2. Someone's going to be on watch whenever, at any given point. 2.
Expecting trouble?
No.
We're just cautious.
Have it.
Roll a persuasion check.
This will be great.
Unfortunately, you like kicked yourself in the foot a little bit.
It's better than a 2.
She says, "Look, if you're expecting anything, then perhaps a different area in town would suffice."
We've just heard the whole town in general has had some trouble with thieves guilds, and
I assure you that there's nothing of that nature here. But if you all insist on staying, then you said 3 rooms?
2, I think.
2's fine.
Just the 2.
That with breakfast in the morning, that'll be 10 gold.
Fancy place. Sure.
Seems like breakfast is non-optional.
I can cover that.
Thanks, Flint.
10 gold.
There's a recognition of the jingle in your purse, and she sort of like grows more comfortable and says, "Oh, well, of course." And she hands you 2 keys, and they have labels on them, and she says, "Just upstairs. Breakfast is generally served in, well, we'll be starting to prepare it in just a few hours, so I wouldn't sleep in too late, or else you might miss it."
No.
And you guys, I assume, continue to up in your rooms. They are adjacent for should you desire to do any sorts of watches. And looking inside, these are 2 big very comfortable beds considering the times. I mean, fantasy times, most people are sitting or like sleeping on like straw in fabric or just like really simple beds. But these are clearly like feathered with, really sort of exquisitely embroidered blankets and pillows and whatnot. Not gaudy, not like a grandma's sort of bedroom, but there's also each room has a like personal bathtub that is sort of sequestered in a side room, and there's sort of a note that says if you need hot water brought up, then come to the desk. And there is sort of a, there's sort of like simple luxuries that are provided that seem to be set up, which, compared to places that you guys have normally slept at, this place is pretty nice. Again, it's not like it's not like it's the presidential suite at a Marriott or anything. It's a room, but you expected it will be comfortable.
This is easily the best place that Mouse has ever stayed. Is the bed big enough that Flint and Mouse could sleep horizontally?
I'm about to pass out on that very luxurious and comfortable looking bed. Watches, vibes, what's up?
I'll take first watch.
I can take second.
Anybody? Just really quickly, to answer your question, yes. The bed, 2 small-sized creatures, you could fit. You could fit probably 4 of you in a bed without anybody touching. But does anybody want to do watches with somebody else, or are you guys just taking solo watches? Because we would need 3 watches is generally what we're aiming for, and Clax can always take a solo watch.
I was gonna say I don't mind taking a solo watch. I was gonna do some funky spell work and see how that goes, but
sure.
Does doing solo watches get us through a rest quicker? Or
the way I've been sort of saying it is, everybody needs to sleep at least 6 hours. So it's kind of like 3-hour watches. So you could also not do watches and be done in 6 hours.
Should we just sleep and...
Actually, yeah, I can take second watch with Flint if Clax wants to do it and independent on his own. It does not matter. The magic can happen regardless.
It's a good idea to do watches. Who's ever on like 3rd watch, grab a bunch of stuff from the breakfast bar, whatever, downstairs. Bring it up.
Clax
Room service? Oh my gosh.
Clax says, I'll take care of it. Just wake me up when it's time.
If you could, if they have anything that, didn't meet, that'd be great. Just a reminder. Appreciated in advance. Love you.
I assure you that's my goal as well. So I think we had, if my hearing is correct, we have Flint and Drada on 2nd watch, perhaps Mouse and Aesop on 1st watch, and then Clax solo watch at the end.
I was thinking I'd go with Clax to assist with breakfast gathering, but I'm happy either way.
I can be by myself. We're good.
Okay.
Solo contemplation.
Okay. So 1st watch, Aesop just sort of having some solo time, just for the sake of it. Also, what is the room situation? We'll just split up these tokens here on the map just for the sake of who's in what room.
I feel like well, I feel like I don't want to speak for Clax. I feel like Clax could sleep on the floor. Just feels like that personality.
Well, I think we established, assuming Flint's okay
Clax
with
is a real floor sleeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Flint and Mouse could comfortably sit on a bed or sleep on a bed without
that's true.
Yeah,
personal space being invaded.
We do, that kind of grouping.
So these are our rooms, but not necessarily the watches. Okay, so Aesop, you are.
Yeah, so I'm gonna specify, and while everyone's going to sleep, I just kind of look at Drada because there's a lot of things that are going on with them that a lot of the other party members, including myself, don't know what's happening about, because that conversation was never made or happened. So I just wait for them. I just have to wait for them to be open and honest about that conversation, and I just kind of like, with a heavy sigh, leave the room, as I want to watch both rooms for the night, but I won't. Maybe I'll go into the second room eventually if they leave it unlocked, but I'll be in the hallway for most of it.
Yeah, the hallway has a sort of like just a sitting area couch, you know, those hallways that just have like random tables and couches on them that line down the way, because it's a 10-foot hallway. So
right.
So you're able to find a comfortable spot that can have angles on both rooms.
Yeah, and I'll just spend time working on material for the tournament.
Okay, just roll a perception check for me.
Come on, not a 2. That's what I'm looking for. Not a 2. It's not a 2. 18.
It's not a 2. You feel relatively confident? Well, you feel confident that nobody has opened these doors and that you didn't hear anything outwardly from within the rooms. And you peek in a few times and everything seems to be on the up and up.
Okay. Then I'm good.
Okay.
I wake up the next peeps for the next watch.
Okay. I believe that's Flint and Drada.
Yeah, it is.
If you want to both roll me perception and then feel free to do with as you will.
Great.
Wow, another 2.
2 plus 10.
Amazing.
I was just gonna. What I was planning on doing is, I think I would very much invite Flint into this. Just given that we have someone who might, be looking for us and sneak by, and perhaps be even a little extra stealthy if he catches a glimpse of us, I thought this might be of some help. And I reach into a bag and take out a smallish, probably like 3-foot length of rope, and like whip it in the air in front of me. And you see like it kind of like stiffens slowly, unnatural. Like the verb would be like it curdles into stiffness, if that makes sense. And cast Rope Trick, which gives us a little pocket dimension that we can view upon the world for an hour without being seen. You're welcome to come inside.
Sure. Yeah. I will climb up into this pocket dimension.
It's one of those things where this is like such a quintessential D&D spell, and yet I've never actually read it. I'm just like, I know generally what it does, but
it creates a pocket dimension for an hour. Once the rope is pulled up, it can't be seen from the outside. I mean, we can see it through the outside, almost like through a window.
Okay. It does last 1 hour, and it's a 3-hour watch, but I do, I
figured
that.
Give us the best
For
chance
sure.
that we can.
Yeah.
Are rangers able to ritually cast? Or is that not a thing they have? I'm assuming Rope Trick is a ritual spell, but I don't actually know that. Because I have also never read it.
Rope Trick is
I'm
not
looking at
not
it,
a
and
ritual spell.
Oh, alright.
I should look into if they can ritually cast. I also just love that one of the material components is powdered corn. That brings joy.
Well, is there anything you guys talk about while sitting in this pocket dimension? Is it just like a, dark black space? Like, what do you imagine is up
No,
there?
I think it's definitely dark. It feels it's giving big like cave energy. Like you can't exactly perceive the walls on the other side of you, but it feels like you're deep underground. But in its cool inside, but in like a comfortable way. Like if it's a 90-degree day and you go spelunking and you're like, wow, it's just forever 60 degrees underground. That's delightful. I think kind of around the entrance, there's maybe some moss growing, some weird flora and fungi about. It's definitely dark, but it's not hostile by any means. No, I don't know if Drod has anything he specifically wants to talk about. But just like, welcome to my man cave ?
I like it. It's got a good vibe.
Not realizing I say the word vibe too much. Okay, great.
Oh,
Great. Everyone's doing it. Oh my god, am I starting a trend? Crazy.
So you're from down and around Flamebridge, right?
Hmm?
You heard of the Jade Mask before?
I never really had much experience with them. I mean, I heard that they existed, but it's not like I was donning masks and running off into the night, although that is kind of on brand. But I wasn't doing that with any great frequency, no. You? Did you have any dealings with them?
I mean,
That's a hesitant
I heard of them.
Mhm.
I mean, I lived in Flamebridge, so they were
Do go
around.
on.
They were just
Lying around.
They're just the Thieves Guild down there. Like, you run into them a little bit. It wasn't like one of the fancy rich people or something. You run into people. You hear about people.
Define running into people.
I don't know. Just
I'm not like accusing you of, being like a Jade Mask member, but like if you were, that'd be cool. That's all I'm saying.
no. I was not a member. I'm no rogue. No.
Not a member, but there was an implied but there.
No. There was.
Otto's just really reading into this, and he's just like, wait, Flint's way cooler than I gave him credit for.
You can give an insight check if you really want to dive into...
I would absolutely love to.
And then Flint, roll me a straight d20, and I will adjudicate based on your stats. So as to not reveal perception versus persuasion. There's probably a little bit something there, Drada. You can't read minds with an insight check, but Flint knows something. Or
I think at a certain point, Drada would stop pressing, but would be like, that's rad as hell. Like, we all got our shit to keep to ourselves, but like, this is gonna come up again. Like, don't worry.
Yeah. I didn't like know him much. It just they're from there and they're Thieves Guild.
That is in fact basic information, yes.
But that's pretty much it. I don't know that I have anything else on my checklist of things to talk about.
Yes. Let's spell it.
Fair enough. And I want to correct myself. I didn't mean to imply that Flint definitely knows something. Just that there's a familiarity there. You have no idea how deep that goes, and if it is simple hearsay or recognition, or if it is something more. But it's just like, yeah, you caught that
something.
Something.
I put that mask back in my bag and
Hey, what's that jade mask on your belt?
What?
Yeah.
And beneath the tattoos.
Nothing extraordinary happens in the night regarding your perception checks. At some point, you I assume, know to climb out of the rope trick instead of falling out of it unceremoniously.
Yeah, I think if it's a cave-like environment and there are stalactites, every once in a while a like drip of water might start falling, but as the time looms closer and closer, it just gets wetter and wetter and wetter. You're like, okay, it's about to flood. Let's leave.
And you wake up the next watch. Flint before, so Drada goes back to Aesop's room. Flint, you go back to the room with Clax and Mouse. And when you wake up Clax, he just sort of like grunts, shakes his head, and sort of starts gathering his things pretty quickly. But before you wake up Mouse, he sort of says, "Hey, what was that thing you said? I didn't process it until I laid down, and I didn't want to bring it up."
What thing that I said?
You said something to the Jade guy when he was leaving.
I just had a friend of mine from back in Flamebridge and thought I'd try and see if this guy had heard of him. Tell him hi for me.
Right.
Jade Mask is from Flamebridge. It's a big town, but they might have known each other.
He kind of gives you like the appraising look and says, "Right." And then just sort of puts on his armor and collects Mouse and takes Mouse out to the watch area. Although, in this time, this is the time where you're starting to smell food being prepared down the hallway, and so you know that. In fact, I should advance the clock. Mouse, you wake up and it's, daylight is already out at this point. But it seems that there's sounds of like cutlery being put down and various things happening in the other room. What would you like to do?
I don't think it takes us long before one of us is scoping out the food situation, but I am probably a little more talkative than Clax once in the morning, just asking questions about where he got his armor and how'd he learn to use his, I think it's an axe, and what's it like having horns, and are scales better than skin?
I'm gonna go get some food. You stay here.
Do Dragonborn have horns?
I mean, the character art that he was happy with has some kinds of horns, so.
Fair enough. Yeah, I suppose it does.
Mouse, your questions. He's. I don't want to like reveal all of Sean's character's information without him being here, but your questions are like, I feel like they're a little bit rapid fire, and eventually he's just like, I'll be back, and he goes to go get food, almost as a means of dismissing himself, and probably because hunger is the priority.
That seems fair.
But eventually he comes back with he seems to have procured a serving tray, and has just piled a number of plates on it that are full of all sorts of things, and then he just sort of like puts it down on sort of the side table that you guys are taking watch at and says, "Your turn, I'll watch." And so he just starts sort of eating while you can go get your own food. I will just say, if you want to roll a perception check for your half of the sort of the watch first, though.
Oh, real great. Oh, but I'm a halfling.
Yeah. For some reason, Clax did not roll like I thought he did. Okay. So you don't see anything while Clax was getting food, and so you go step out, and in this dining area that you saw before, you see a number of patrons that must have come through down other hallways or through different stairwells, and it is sort of set up continental breakfast style, except it's sort of like cured meats, sort of like there's like a large charcuterie board out. There's a sort of like some kind of like punch bowl or something, fantasy punch bowl, some kind of sweet lemonade drink of some variety. You wouldn't know unless you tasted it, but and then there's bacon, eggs, all sorts of things that are sort of set up, and you still hear sounds from the kitchen of people bringing stuff out. From your perception, it seems like Clack's got enough food for everybody else, but that this is sort of like whatever you want to get. There's plenty of options. You do see that there are everybody who's sort of dressed up in this sort of this eating area. They're all much better dressed than you as far as sort of normal fashion standards are concerned. There are people with jackets wearing sort of bright clothing. Some is probably silk or velvet. Some are well-tailored cloaks and whatnot. Nobody's really paying you mind right away, but there is just sort of like you have an observation that this is definitely a more wealthy establishment.
That makes sense. And I think I would kind of try to straighten my clothes a little bit. They're all well made. They're just not... I don't think she's bothered by being, air quotes, underdressed, because I'm not sure how much that occurs to her. But she will try to straighten up and make herself look neater. Definitely going for whatever's in the punch bowl, and then she would also take, if there's some kind of porridge, oatmeal, anything that feels like something she would have eaten at home.
Sure. The punch bowl, it's just sort of a sweet, lime mango lemonade sort of thing that has a kind of like, it's not spiked, it's non-alcoholic, but it has that sort of like refinement to it, that it seems like they have kicked it up in some way that is perhaps unfamiliar, but that is pleasing. But yeah, there's all sorts of things for you, and you find a kind of like oatmeal that has like a berry station, and like bananas that you could chop in and put in if you wanted. But you get your food, and do you just come back?
I would probably take 3 glasses of the fancy lemonade because it's intriguing and fun, but otherwise, yes. I would just go hang out with Clax until everybody else woke up.
Okay. For the... Clax is sort of just like throwing food into his mouth. I have to refresh my game because something happened. Clax is just sort of throwing food in his mouth and sort of politely nodding at whatever questions you're asking. But eventually people do step back in and... people do wake up, is what I meant to say. And the morning is yours. By the time you guys do wake up, the kind of morning rush of food has sort of ended, which means that you guys can all sit together at a table and sort of enjoy the leftovers of what Clax didn't eat in the night. But what would you like to do? And nothing happened during the third watch either. And everybody may complete a long rest, of course.
God, I used up so many spells the day before. Thank God.
So, are we off to a or to a warehouse in the Silver District today?
Too bad we don't know anything else besides that. I feel like that's going to be a little hard to find.
Well, we did get those reports from the last few nights. Break-in at a temple, gem merchant. Some woman saw wolves, which may have been mouse. A little unclear to me.
I think they saw wolves before I became a panther. But have you guys, before you came down, did you take inventory, make sure nothing disappeared overnight?
Fair.
We have not done that yet.
You all
Definitely.
Yeah, you all check your stuff and everything seems to be there.
I'm untouched.
Should we ask somebody here where you think it's in the Silver District?
He mentioned something about the Silver District last night, talking about the Sleight. So I'm going to assume that's where an entrance or a headquarter might be. But he wasn't very detailed.
I think I remember him saying it was in like the attic of a warehouse or something. I'm making that up. Okay.
No, that's what I remember. So a warehouse in the Silver District. How exciting.
Is there like a waitress or bartender or somebody that we can...
There's a number of people who are sort of cleaning up at the moment. And you flag one of them down, just a man who's sort of dressed as kind of like butler-esque, but not the same mannerisms, and he says, what can I do for you?
Knows where the Silver District is? We're supposed to have a business meeting there today, and kind of new to town.
Well, the district is like a good third of the city, so I don't really know how it's going to help you, but he sort of indicates that it is, I'm just going to loosely draw this big circle, indicates that it's sort of the northwest side of the road.
There a part of that area that's like got more of the like warehousing and manufacturing and whatnot? Or is that the entire district?
I mean, they've got all sorts of... it's sort of like seen as a shopping district for a lot of people. So you're going to find a lot of that there.
Right.
And then
Thank you so much.
He sort of backs off. He's like, I got to get back to work.
Well, we have the day.
Shopping and mystery. How exciting! I mean, that also, given that our search area is so broad, I'm also trying to think and thinking out loud a bit. Like, is there anything else we want to learn before trying to track down these folks for this most businessy of meetings? Anything else we need to prep before we would venture forth?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. Because these people in the Silver District are the Sleight that we're going to be encountering. So it's not, we might encounter over there, but I guess how should we approach that conversation with a completely new guild?
Clax speaks up and says, well, we gotta find him first, and Silver District's a big place, so unless we can narrow that down, it's a matter of, I don't know.
That's fair. I would, as much as I would love to walk into a dangerous situation with no preparation, sounds like a great time. I'd rather not have oh, look, we happened to find them, and oh yeah, what were we trying to do? Oh great, now we're just tangled up in 2 mercantile organizations. I'm not opposed to just trying to find them if we need to.
I don't know what.
Go ahead.
I don't know what we say when we do find them, but is there some kind of object that we know they would have? It would still be a shot in the dark, but I did prep locate object today.
Depends on if we think they're the ones who stole Avendir's cast. Although I think I got the impression from the Jade Mask guy that may have been them.
It may have. I would not put it past that mask to bluff. If that's the lead we have, that's the lead we have.
I could see that.
Well, and if the cask is ultimately part of our priority is locating and reacquiring it, in my mind, our obligations to Avendir are more prominent than those to the city.
By that.
Yeah.
Getting ourselves mixed up in a Thieves Guild War was not something that I planned on doing when I ventured out.
I mean, if we could find the Sleight, it sounded like most of their members were interested in kind of joining up with this Jade Mask and whatnot. I think it's just their leader that's sort of the problem. So I don't know if we can like instigate a mutiny or something.
We have to find them first to instigate a mutiny.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be mad at taking down some people in positions of power. How terrible, how tragic, how fun.
Clax speaks up and just sort of says, it may be that we need to get the cask back to make good with Avendir, but we have sort of not made a strict commitment with the Unifiers, but one such that they probably are expecting something from us.
Yeah.
Well, then let's hope we can hit 2 birds with 1 stolen cask, as the metaphor definitely goes.
Let's not kill any birds today, please.
Locate 2 birds with 1 stolen cask.
I think I've heard that quote somewhere before.
I don't understand.
I don't either. Anyways.
Yeah, I think it's either we try and like use locate object on a cask or potentially go investigate one or more of these crimes. I'm guessing the center area is the gold district. And that's where, Lord Aaron Bailey had a family heirloom stolen from?
If anybody doesn't have access to it, the journal tab in the top right corner should have a Unifier missive that you can read, should you ever want to reference that.
That's true. We could go talk to the other victim. We talked to Byron already. I should also maybe throw out there that when I say locate object is a shot in the dark, it would be helpful if we could narrow down the search radius, because even if I cast the spell and turn myself into something more mobile, I still only have 10 minutes. And that's a really big area of the city to try to draft horse sprint through until I get a ping on it. I may not be able to do it all in 1, 2, or 3 goes.
It caused quite the ruckus, just sprinting through town as a horse as well.
Right.
I mean, I can be a fairly, standard-looking horse.
What's the fun in that?
Do you have horse? I guess you would. You would have seen horses coming into town, so yeah. I just never made an icon for one. It's fine. Well, you have shared several options. But how do you guys want to proceed?
Okay. I had only really read the 4 reports. It does sound like they have somebody captured? Or...
I don't know how helpful these other people might be, unless I saw them, or saw someone.
Well, so they have this guy Umber, who's been arrested, who is a member of the Sleight. So if we could talk to Umber...
He could give us some ins on how to have put mutiny to overthrow the leader who's not following what the people want.
And perhaps a more detailed location.
Yeah.
Down. Sounds like our best start out of anything.
Alright. So they probably have him at, what was this? Wherever the unifiers are staying. Steelworks or something
Steel
like that?
Arms, yeah.
Steel
Which is
Arms.
the Foundry near the Guilty Lady. Is that where you guys would like to head?
That's your best bet.
Works. Works for me, and that way we're also back close and don't have to pay for a second night here. Not that I'm complaining, that bed was fantastic. But
I hit the wrong button. Okay. It's not an insignificant amount of time to get there. This is a relatively busy town, relatively large town. So it's going to take you a good 3.5 hours. So if there's anything you'd like to talk about as you are sort of moseying over, please feel free.
what's up? How are your Tournament of Tales plans coming?
Good. I spent a little bit of last night while I was on watch, writing down some material, talking about. Hold on, it's either here in my other small book that I have, but just kind of trying to create a fantastical word in poem form is quite challenging. So try to draw inspiration from some of the things we've seen and just from my own ideas in general. I think I have a good, solid idea, but what I'm really nervous about is that second round, man. I have no idea what they're gonna do. I don't want to disappoint Avendir, but I don't know what's gonna happen. So I just gotta roll with the punches, I guess.
Isn't the second round the one we can help you with?
Yes, that is true. I just I would like to know going in beforehand what it's going to be, but guess we can't all have the most amount of detail.
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Hopefully we'll be a little bit hopefully we'll be a little bit stronger before then. Maybe I'll add a little bit more something into it. But
maybe you'll level up.
Maybe.
What?
Yeah, you will level up before the Tournament of Tales, I promise.
But no, I'm also excited too. It's something that I've only heard about while growing up and while at university, and never thought I would be able to do or attend or even be a part of it. But yeah, I'm just taking it one day at a time, I guess.
Go ahead and roll me a history check, ASAP, as you sort of reflect on what you know about the Tournament of Tales, and wonder what the second round could be.
My strong suit.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Unfortunately, not a high enough roll for me to reveal anything, but so I might just be recapping what I've already said. But the impression you got, and that maybe you've heard something like this before, is that the second round is sort of like designed to be reactionary, sort of designed to be like not like improv, but something in that realm where you're not supposed to be too prepared for it, but that you certainly should be ready for it.
Right.
Which is a vague description, but that's sort of all you can really get.
Yeah, that's what my roll got me. Okay.
Haven't you say what like the prize for winning is?
That I don't know. And if I do, I just need to remember it real quick.
I do not believe that he has revealed a prize.
Got it. No, I have no idea what prize is. I guess that would help in terms of what we know we're getting ourselves into, but
Everyone gets a really nice participation trophy, and that's all you need.
and a nice journal. Just one really nice journal.
You guys eventually find yourself coming up to the steel arms, and you would expect that this place, which is sort of a large foundry that has sort of like all these vents in it to probably let smoke out, or sort of for smelting, or for all the sorts of smithing that they do there, you would probably expect that on any other day or any other sort of week that this place would be a bustle of activity. But what you sort of observe approaching it now is none of that, because the Unifiers are using this as their home base right now, that they probably shut down those sorts of operations. And there are a number of sort of flags draped across the entrance and the sides that sort of depict the sunburst, sort of yellow flags that depict a white sunburst symbol on them, indicating the current residents of this place. And there's also a number of tents set up outside that are sort of flying yellow colors and whatnot. There are guards at every door. But are you guys just approaching?
So did we remember that Unifier's name?
Names.
Clack speaks up and says Tan. Tan's the one that
Thank you.
I debriefed with that night.
Before we go in, because I think he may have some connections here, I will guide Clax in case he has to be the one doing some of the talking to get us in to talk to the prisoner.
he kind of looks down at you and says, should I just go say hello and then wave you guys in if all goes well?
I think so.
Sounds great.
All right. He steps forward, probably a good 15 feet in front of you before there's sort of you just observe a casual approach. He's not obviously weapons drawn or anything, but nonetheless, the response he gets at the gates is like individuals sort of like as guards do, sort of like a sort of show of force at the door before Clax sort of just like puts his arms up, and you hear sort of a brief discussion in the distance before one of the unifiers, these individuals, they're both wearing sort of the full helmets, full shield and sword. One of them runs in, and then Clax kind of looks back at you and just like shrugs. And then they sort of, the individual comes back, and you see Clax sort of waving you guys forward as if to come. And as you come in, the building is sort of as I described, a forge that has shut down. All of the tools and anvils have sort of been pushed off to the side. There's a there's not a whole lot of rooms in a place like this. There seems to be like one closed door that you don't really know what's inside, but otherwise they've set up beds kind of all throughout this. It's sort of become a makeshift barracks, and there's just sort of a few tables that you see. As you sort of enter, you notice that people... Oh, go ahead and roll me... whoever would think that they would be the first to enter behind Clax, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
I feel like that would either be... I feel like that would be me or Flint.
Sure, if one of you wants to.
I think Flint's maybe... Alright. Yeah, Flint's behind Clax, but a little more apprehensive than usual.
Okay.
And
hey,
keeping a close eye out.
And this is just sort of only the first few people who came in really see this, but it's very clear to you, and you don't catch any details beyond what I tell you, but it's very clear to you that as you come in, people are putting their helmets on. That sort of, you could probably put together that it's like their faces are not to be known by people on the outside, and so you come in and you don't see any flash of skin or anything, but you see people who are sort of like adjusting their helmets as if they just put them on.
Interesting.
But you guys are made to sit down at a table, and this is, you're told that this is sort of Tan, who you're talking to right now, the one who Clax had predominantly spoke to, and says, is there something, and it's just, you just sort of hear this behind the hollow metal mask, and says, something that I can help you with, or something that you wish to report?
We saw in your notes that you had arrested somebody from the Sleight, Umber. We were wondering if it would be possible for us to question him. I
assure you that we have questioned him sufficiently, but is there something some new insight that you have?
Mostly just hoping we can convince him that, he should tell us where the Sleight are located, so that we might go talk with them. Or some means of setting up a meeting with them, or something.
There's just, again, this like metal helmet looking down at you as you sit at the table and says, respectfully, you realize this is something we've already done.
Well, we're kind of thinking that, you know, a different person having that conversation with Umber, like people who are not in full guard or soldier gear, might be able to be a little bit more convincing and approachable to him than you guys might have been able to. We're just trying to clear all of our options away. And right now, this is our best option to get information.
It would probably make the conversation go way easier if we could promise him that we could get him out of here. But
roll. Whoever wants to do this can roll persuasion, or I would say between Flint and Aesop, who've done the talking. One of you can roll persuasion with advantage.
I'll do it, Flint. That's okay.
Yes.
Charisma characters.
In my mind, Flint is charismatic, but
there you go. Oh,
he is not our favorite.
Same number twice.
Sort of relaxes his pose a bit. Not that he was particularly tense, but just seems to be considering, and says, "I will go ask the captain. One moment." And sort of walks that closed door that I described earlier. There's sort of a knock. Tan knocks at the door and eventually opens it, walks in, and then closes the door behind him.
Can I look around to see if the rest of the guards or brass spears are just like staring at us, or like doing their own thing, keeping guard? Like, what's their
I'd love to know how many eyes are on us in the room right now.
You can both roll perception.
Okay, not too shabby.
Aesop, for you it's hard to get a read, but I'll offer you one tidbit of information because of what you said. Just to be clear, this is not the brass spears; these are the unifiers, and so,
okay, yeah.
They are all sort of just in plate mail and helmets, and and it's kind of, perhaps from your read, it's hard to tell sort of what they're paying attention to. There's activity. None of them are just like sort of deadpan staring, but they're sort of like sharpening swords, doing this, doing that. But Drada, as you're sort of trying to maybe more gauge your position in this room, it's sort of like everywhere you look is sort of a moment where somebody looks away. And there's sort of like recognition that everybody in this room knows that you're here. And everybody, you sort of also notice that everybody has perhaps in a casual setting would not have their sword strapped to their belts, but that they do now. And that there's probably a good 12 or more here that and that's just sort of the ones that are in this room with you.
Great. Yeah, I think Prada puts his hands in his pockets, still acting real casual, but those hands are now much closer to a crossbow if need be.
Eventually the door opens and it's somebody else steps out, followed by who you assume to be Tan. The reason you can tell the difference between the two of them is that this is an individual who's not wearing a helmet and is wearing sort of a more ornate version of the armor. It is just sort of this like light-skinned person with like a shark hairstyle, pretty sharp, and a sort of bright yellow crest on their armor, who sort of like sort of takes a scan of the room before landing on your table and walking up. This individual has a very large, pretty ornate greatsword strapped to their back, but no other weapons, no shield. And they sort of approach and say, Captain Blakewell, pleased to meet you all. Glad that you took on this mission. You said you want to question Umber.
Yeah, we're hoping he might be able to give us some insights as to where to find the Sleight, so we might, have some of these negotiations.
Well, you're certainly welcome to try. He has been released into Brass Spear custody. They have a prison in the center of town, in sort of their barracks. I can have a note drafted to grant you an audience. I don't know what sort of luck you'll have.
I mean, better than anything else we've got as far as leads go right now.
This is true.
That'd be really kind of you, thanks.
Right. He sort of like nods to Tan, and Tan dawdles off, presumably to write a note or something, and says, well, don't suppose is this just, you're just getting started, or have you done anything else so far?
This is more our path to finding out more information about both guilds. We read the missive and realized that there was someone in custody, and this was our best option that we had thus far.
Well, certainly if you discover anything, and at this point, Tan comes back and sort of hands something to the person you're talking to, a slip of paper, and then he just like briefly looks at it and says, certainly if you find anything, and puts it down on the table. I would be happy to assist in any way that we can, or if you are able to resolve this, please let us know. But, well...
Does this note give us any sort of room to potentially let Omar... Not Omar. Is that what his name? Ooh, Umber. Umber. I don't know where I'm coming up with Omar. Let Umber out, or anything else that we might be able to use in our discussions with him. Maybe even just get him nicer cell or something. I don't know how long he's expected to be sort of captured.
I believe that we recommended I believe it was 4-month period of confinement. We don't have that kind of jurisdiction here for our current work, so you could try to talk to the lieutenant over at the Brass Spears and see if they're willing to bark on that, but I'm afraid that I don't really have an answer for you.
Fair enough.
You know the name of the lieutenant at the Brass Spear?
I believe it is Diana Marwood. Recently returned, we'll say.
Recently returned, how so?
Give me a persuasion check.
This will go so well.
He says, sorry, I misspoke. It's frankly not your concern, but you're welcome to speak to her.
It sounds like he's the only one who is unhelmed at this point. Just by chance, this is not the same unifier who was harassing Cassandra and her caravan, correct?
You would have no way to really know, I don't think.
I'm just saying visually, because I got quite close. I was a weasel in the back.
Well, sorry, all the only unifiers you've ever seen up until this one person have been helmeted and wearing the same uniform.
Okay,
yeah.
So that one was helmeted, so yeah. I understand.
But like the voice doesn't ring out as very easily. Okay, cool.
And the person the captain you're talking to right now is wearing much different armor. So, you don't have that sort of tell at the moment.
Reason to suspect.
Well, he sort of slides the paper over to whoever wants to take it and says, "This'll get you in the door. Can't make any promises beyond that, but certainly appreciate your intentions."
Clax, maybe you should take it just so you could start that conversation with the brass spears. Might help us better in our negotiations. Soldier to soldier, or guard to guard.
Clax reaches for it and rolls it up and shoves it in a bag. Well, if there's anything else, feel free to stop by.
Thank you for your help.
Much appreciated.
And you guys are... I will say for the sake of brevity, not that Drada and Mouse don't already know this, but he does give you directions to the Brass Spear barracks. The two of you have actually been out front of it, so you have some familiarity, but he does direct you for the purposes of... he doesn't know that, so...
Yeah, Drada nods along really enthusiastically during that part of the conversation.
And that is all the way over here. So you guys have a several more hour hike, assuming that you're going straight there.
While we walk, I may just casually suggest that now that Aesop has proven that he has some flexibility with what he looks like, that it might not be a bad idea to kind of match Clax's soldiery appearance in times like this. It seems like that presence can get us... The presence of a guard military background can have some influence among these types.
So I kind of look at Clax's uniform. Well, I don't know why I keep thinking he's a freaking soldier. But more like outfit that he's wearing that's way more armor than what I'm wearing. And I will cast Disguise Self.
Are you just... Wow. You're like 6 hours away from...
Oh, okay. I'll wait. Yeah.
Okay. But, and I would also say, you don't even necessarily... I mean, you decide what you want to do, but Clax is not the only soldier sort of person that you could sort of mimic. Like you've sort of shared a little bit about your family and whatnot, so there's a variety of different uniform styles you could borrow from if you wanted.
I also think, given overhearing that suggestion from Mouse at some point on this trek, Rod would use the cloak. I don't think would cast Disguise Self, but like turn the cloak into a very proper, like, I'm thinking like naval peacoat is kind of the vibe. just maybe not actively in an armed forces necessarily, but like maybe has a connection or there is some rigidity there.
No, you're fine. I think I'm going to stick to a more casual armored figure like Clack presents for reasons. And if you want to know why, I can message you after our session today. But when we get closer, then I'll change. So in case there's anything that happens before then I will wait.
Right.
And
We never really did discuss the whole named items thing, and if we wanted to purchase something.
Did he say there's a drawback to it, though? Did I hear that
Ash
correctly?
had one.
Okay. I don't think I would mind stopping by there. I have a request, if y'all don't mind.
It did sort of sound like, if I remember right, getting an item named would take a little time and 300 gold, I think?
Depending on the item.
Yeah, he said anywhere from 200 to 10,000, depending on
There.
your ambition.
Maybe just getting a quote, then.
I'll never complain about some free fantasy air conditioning.
Okay. Well, you head there. Takes you a better part of 3.5 hours. And I'm failing at dragging this token. Oh, I'll get there. Okay. Had to do that first. And the tree is there. You climb up the ladder and feel this sort of air conditioning again. And Zazazius sort of pokes up his head from behind the counter and says, 2 days in a row. I think you might be taking a fancy to me.
I mean, just look at your shop. It's just very... We're in a tree right now. Why wouldn't we stop by and say hello?
Well, of course. Hello.
I have a request. If you're familiar with the Tournament of Tales that is coming up relatively soon, it's a competition for bards such as myself to perform, to entertain, to please the masses with creative storytelling. And I was wondering if you could possibly take this item that might help me with my endeavor in such a competition. And I'll hand him over the pen that I use to write in my book. It's just like a feather quill that kind of matches the feather itself kind of matches my outfit, kind of like a pastel-y blue.
He sort of reaches for it and sort of like twirls it in his fingers and says, never named a pen before. What sort of qualities are you looking for in in the soul that this could inhabit?
Something that would give me more confidence, more the ability to speak to each and every single person in a crowd, connecting with them, just being able to be a motivator for the masses, like such in this competition, being able to bring out my creativity in my speech, something that just kind of helps that.
Well, I cannot give you more confidence, but I'm picking up pieces, personality of this item, something that is perhaps a cheerleader or something that is perhaps a muse. Am I hearing correctly?
Yeah, that sounds great.
He sort of like thinks to himself and says, I'm certain that I can come up with a name for that.
What would be your quote or your price for such an endeavor?
He/I is the DM, I'm thinking. So because this is like,
take your time.
Yeah, this is like a sort of like item shop mechanic that like I don't have anything prepared, and so that's why he has time that he needs to fulfill the order.
Of course.
But so in a way, I'm not going to give you a direct quote, but he explains something along the lines of the more money you spend, the more powerful it has the potential to be. And so it's sort of like the realm of 200 to 10,000 gold. The way that he says it is probably a little bit more like lofty about the like I'll find a really good soul for it, one that is like kind and caring and compassionate, whereas like the sort of lower priced sort of, he isn't able to coax a soul to the item or convince a soul to merge with the item without sort of giving the soul some sort of larger incentive. And so it's sort of really up to you how much you want to spend in this sort of circumstance. And it's sort of, it's a matter of it's a matter of seeing what you get at that point.
Once the soul enters the item, is there any chance that it could be upgradable, or is it a one-time deal?
He sort of says to you, a soul can be convinced to take on additional traits, although, well, it's difficult because people, just like people, some can be stubborn, but it's possible.
Okay. I gotta see. Hold on. How much is platinum? What's the platinum to gold ratio?
10 to 1.
Dang. Okay. I have 250 to offer you currently. 250 gold.
I would be more than happy to make that happen.
I mean, do we want to pool any more money into this if we're doing it?
I mean, you guys don't have to. I don't have that expectation, but I mean, anything could help.
To help whoever needs it. I was sort of saving up for an expensive spell component, but coins are not particularly valuable to me. I'm happy to contribute however the group is going to benefit.
Yeah, I mean, and who's to say that there might not be Who's to say that by putting some more money in now, I mean, who knows what we get from the Tournament of Tales, but if it helps you, it might help us in the long run.
And it sounds like as long as we can solve this problem, I think as long as we give Byron his gem back, he was going to give me the item I needed anyway.
I kind of get a little like
that won't be stolen,
emotional. Kind of get a little emotional and be like, yeah, that would be really nice.
You can have my 190.
Oh wow. Okay, that is a lot of gold. Do you just drop it in my hand?
Yeah, Mouse just hand you her bag.
Oh, Mouse. I mean, you should probably keep some for yourself. Maybe. Are you sure?
I mean, it's all for the good of the party.
I mean, maybe you should keep like 90, and then I can put in another 100, and that gets it to, what is that, 450?
I can put in a final 50 if we want to do 500.
Guys, I mean, this is great, but I just, you don't have to.
I mean, I can't buy any of the stuff I want with the amount of money I've got right now, so
Same.
might as well invest in a good thing, and then, rather than just hauling around.
I don't want to spend Klax's money for him, but he.
Yeah.
But I will say that he the way he phrases that is to say, like, I've got enough money to carry us if there's any immediate expenses, and I'm certainly willing to contribute in that way.
Thank you, Klax.
And
yeah, and I don't think this like bankrupts anybody.
Yeah, and if we get a payday, we can always pay you back too, or you can pay us back.
Yeah, I drop while everyone else's gold is on the table with my final bag. That will make it 500 in total on the counter.
Zazius sort of like bows lightly to you and says, I will be sure to ask for a soul that would align with you and your needs.
Much appreciated.
I would say probably a week.
Hey.
I can also contact you when it is done, and if you leave, I can hold it for you until our next meeting.
Well, if you decide you want to go to the Tournament of Tales, we could also meet there if we have to run out for some reason.
Where is this?
I was just trying to figure that out myself, DM.
In the capital?
No, it's in Horizon, which is a town sort of near the capital.
Oh, I thought it was in the capital.
So did I, and I didn't think that was going to be correct. So it's in Horizon, if you've ever been there.
Perhaps. I think it would be difficult to plant myself there, but I could. Well, I will let you know. If it comes to that, I will find you.
We can let you know if we have to leave town, too.
This is also true.
Love some active open communication.
Is the calendar correct? Is today the 36th?
The 53rd is what today should be.
Today's the 53rd, and it's on the 7th.
Yeah. The 36, so that you see the red 1 icon, those are like journal entries that I put in.
Okay, that's why I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought something was happening on the 36th. Okay.
Just for my note taking, did we spend all of my money? Or did you give me some back?
We spent only 100 of your gold.
Okay.
I spent almost all of my money. So I'll be in the background in terms of purchasing items for a little while.
So you put in it doesn't really matter to me, but just confirming ASAP 250
Mm-hmm.
Drada 50, Flint 100, and 100 for Mouse. Okay.
Yes.
He, generously scoops up the money and sort of puts it under the counter and says, well, is there anything else I can help you with?
No, I think that'll be all.
Out of curiosity, not that I have the, funds to want to do this right this second, but is this something you could name? And I'll hold up my blasting rod or arcane firearm, essentially. It's not exactly a magic item, but it's...
Yeah, but it's sort of infused.
Sort of?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... Well, it's not even an infusion at the moment. It's just...
Oh, your
It's
class
just a
feature.
class
Yeah,
feature that I've made.
He looks at it and says, perhaps. It's certainly a little different. I don't know. You see, like, his eyes sort of flash over it and says, I would have to figure this out. I am certainly happy to explore that when the time comes.
Sure.
But, he sort of says his thanks, and you all exit the magical air conditioning of the tent and climb down the ladder, finding yourselves out in the tents again. While the sun is still up, the hour is actually already getting a little late, and you just see that people are starting to pack up at this hour. But you still have time to do what you need to do, because you guys had a late start to the day because you were up so late. So you guys just continue to the barracks?
Is it going to be so late that it's an awkward time for us to be trying to come in and question somebody at the barracks? Or...
You imagine that a prison probably is open 24/7 to some respect.
I might end up staying somewhere like the STEM again. We'll see.
Okay.
Hey, we're back. Remember us? Oh my god, crazy. Wow.
Okay.
Someone's totally not following us, you guys. Don't worry.
Not at all. Not at all.
I will go ahead and advance you guys to the barracks, but let's go ahead and take a little break. And then if there's anything you want to talk about on your trek there, we'll go ahead and do that before you arrive. But for now, we'll go ahead and take like a 5-ish minute break.
Alrighty. See everyone soon.
All right, see ya. So, we resume. I forgot to actually move you guys during that break, but you start your trek to the Brass Spears Barracks. If there's anything you'd like to talk about on the way there, then please feel free.
Can I ask Gerada to just like kind of move back to the more back of the group, but kind of away from everyone else for a more private conversation, if you want?
Sure. What's up?
No, just making sure you're good. We haven't really like actually talked about everything that happened back at the Guilty Lady, and you kind of disappeared that night.
Yeah. I needed some space.
Right.
I appreciate the check-in. I don't think now is the time. I don't know if I want to talk about it right now.
Uh-huh.
Sometime sure. I think Drada says that and like doesn't want to say it, but very much actively forces it out of him.
You know, we're always here. We've been together for quite a bit now, and you know, we all take care of each other. Just remember that your actions do reflect and affect all of us as well. And I'll leave that as the end of the conversation and walk more towards the front.
Great. And I think Drada stays a bit behind.
So you mentioned perhaps changing your appearance leading up to the barracks, and so you're sort of reaching the threshold that's sort of been indicated to you that like in the next 10 minutes you'll be entering sort of more of a courtyard or sort of like a group of buildings that sort of represents the Brass Spears territory.
So
that's something I like to do.
Can I pull everyone into like a nearby alley and be like, okay, if you want me to disguise myself, what is there like a general group consensus of what I should kind of look like, or are we feeling anything's more important than the other to represent here?
So we're trying to. I'm less worried about the guards. We've got our like note from the unifier and things. I don't really know how much I care about what the Brass Spear thinks.
I'm kind of with you on that.
It's almost more important that this Umber guy thinks we're on his side.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's like a particular disguise or something that would help with that or not.
Maybe if we knew what another Sleight member looked like, maybe I could have transferred myself into them, but we don't. So.
I mean, you could always ask before we get to the conversation. I'm assuming you've dealt with some other Sleight members at some point, or at least seen them maybe out and about. I don't know, whatever gives you the confidence you need.
Do we know enough about the Sleight for that to be convincing? Like, even if we did, like, I don't know.
Are they gonna let, if one of us is dressed up as a Sleight member, I don't know that they're gonna allow personal visits, even with a note from...
Maybe it's a transformation once we're inside kind of situation.
Yeah, that might be...
For Umber specifically.
Right, that might be a little hard to manage, especially, I'm assuming they're going to escort us there. maybe going in as myself might be best. Kind of saves the trouble of like someone realizing that I'm disguised as something else, or something bumping into me and someone else realizing that I am disguised. Might save us some trouble if I just go in regularly.
What are the odds these brass spear guys are upset at us from from that fight that happened at the Guilty Lady? Like, weren't those guys that we ended up fighting and killing a few of, didn't they have like some sort of loose association with the brass spear?
No, we pander to a corrupt organization. Wow. I think Drada bristles a little bit at that, but
I think we're overthinking this. Let's just go as ourselves. We're all convincing and very friendly people. I'm sure Umber will trust us in no time.
I think first thing is we got to kind of get a sense for where Umber is on this, merger of the Sleight into the Jade Mask. Like, is he all for that and wants to be part of this Jade Mask group, or is he thinking Sleight should stay independent, or what have you? Or does he not care as long as he profits out of the deal?
All information that we will hopefully soon find out. Cox has the note, right?
Yep.
From the universe.
Yeah. But if you're gonna try any sort of disguise things, I should probably give it to you, unless we're just going in.
I think we should just go in.
go.
All right. There seems to be a central building surrounding several other small buildings, and they are, the way that similar to at the Steel Arms, you saw the yellow flag straight down with the sunburst symbol. Here, there is sort of a series of green flags that have a sort of like tan yellow spear going from top to bottom, like more of a banner, not so much a flag, that sort of mark these sort of surrounding buildings. There seems to be several buildings, but one that is sort of central that you do see guards posted in front of. And sort of, are you sending Clax to do all the talking initially? Clax goes in, or similar to before. Clax walks up, seems to make introductions, and eventually just waves you guys in without even sort of a brass spear going in to check or ask for any kind of permission. And you see that the doors open up to you into what is sort of a plain kind of like sitting room, that there's more guards posted along the sort of additional doors that are throughout the sitting room. And you are led through into a sort of common area that sort of then leads into another room that you see has more guards sitting in front of it. But then there's another room. It's sort of zigzagging all around. I'm not really describing the landscape very well, but you're sort of led not only through the common room, but through sort of another sitting area that has like a chest and a kind of like stone bench. And then there seems to be sort of like a more ornate door that has a large shield a large like red shield, not red, green shield in front of it, marking the doorway. And the soldier who you're currently with, which is just sort of like this, common human man who just sort of doing their duty, sort of no helmet, knocks on the door, and you hear a woman's voice from behind it just say, "Enter." And then he sort of opens up the door, and you guys are sort of shuffled in to kind of a bedroom / office that is a little bit more ornately decorated. And you do note that while there's only one person in this room, that there seems to be more people who've sort of been funneled in behind you, just so as to just keep watch of the conversation that's unfolding. And you find this woman who's sort of sitting at a desk and wearing more of like a metal cap. It's not like a full face helmet, but more of like a sort of metal hood, for lack of a better word, that's sort of covering her hair, that is sort of tucked underneath the armor. It sort of just has this like intimidating look about her, and she like continues to sit down at the table, as sitting down at this desk as you all sort of like surround her, and sort of more guards are sort of just present behind you, and she says, "What is it that you want?"
In our missive / message that we have from the Unifiers, we request an audience with the prisoner named Umbar that you have in your possession, just to ask him a few questions about the Sleight, hopefully trying to be more successful.
She sort of interrupts you, and she's like, "Son of a bitch," and she grabs the message from the guard who's standing there, who had taken it from Clax earlier, and sort of gives it a quick read over. And she just says, she sounds pretty like open and brazen. She says, "These fucking Unifiers think they run the place. Well, I can't deny you talking to them, but I don't know. Fine." She says, "If that's all, then you're free to do that. You have, we'll say, 20 minutes before we have to cut you out."
Apologies, we didn't realize there was tension between the two groups. If we realized, we would have maybe just come directly and talked to you. We thought they had him as the prisoner. Maybe this is all a misunderstanding. But
well, nevertheless, go ahead and give me a persuasion check with that, Flint.
Could I give him advantage from my earlier conversation?
No.
Dang it. I tried.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, Flint is the one who engaged in peacekeeping, I would say.
Right. I was just more informational.
Yeah. She says, "Well, nevertheless, you're here and you're interrupting business, so as long as you make it short, we'll be fine."
DM, you do have the picture of Diana kind of covering the map screen on Twitch.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I bring up pictures whenever you're sort of talking to them.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
She says, so she sort of like flags down the other guard in the room and seems to like toss a ring of keys at him, and he catches them, and she says, "Well, if that's all."
Yep, that's all. Thank you for your time.
And you walk back to the sort of sitting room you were in just a minute ago, before the guard sort of opens up the other door in this room, using the keys, and you're led into a kind of like very small very small jail area. There's like only 3 cells here, and it's like quite narrow, where all of you could squeeze into this space if you all want to join in on the conversation, but there's really nowhere else to stand once you guys are all in there. These are some pretty small cells that are very not very well. What's the word? It's pretty squalor. It's people who are here are not necessarily meant to be comfortable, if that makes sense. But the guard leaves you in and then sort of closes the door behind you. He actually can't fit in here, but it is sort of a reinforced wooden door that has one of those like grates in it, and so you're positive that somebody standing on the other side can listen into what's being said, but you do seem to be in the room alone with a there's a figure laying on a bench in one of the laying on a bed in one of the rooms, just sort of like throwing a rock at the ceiling and catching it, and this is a sort of like olive-skinned woman with long hair that is clearly has no other items on her besides sort of the rags that a prisoner would have. And she looks at you and says, "I wasn't expecting visitors."
Hi, I'm Aesop. This is the rest of my party. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Flint.
Mouse.
Question before introducing: is this room dark enough that I could be hidden even if it was just back in a corner, or am I very visible?
There are sort of like those high half windows that bleed light into the room, and it is not yet dark enough to
So sad.
So it's like it's dim light in here.
Then you just get a nice like, "Hi, Drada."
And Clax is just like, "And I'm Clax," and she's like, "Great. Why are you here?"
We're trying to figure out the lovely thieving guild conflict that's currently happening in the wonderful town of Mistral, and we kind of just wow, I'm blanking.
We're really just trying to like help negotiate something between these two guilds.
We figured you might be able to help us out.
Like blushing a little that I couldn't figure anything out.
In turn, maybe we can make sure you benefit from all of this somehow.
That may be some help begets help.
She sort of catches the rock, breaking rhythm with her sort of blasé approach to the conversation earlier, and sort of like sits up on the bed and sort of whispers to the point where those of you in the room can hear, but she's clearly trying to say something that the guards outside can't hear. She says, "What, you gonna get me out of here? Is that what you're saying?"
I mean, we can look into it, but that's...
Who sent you?
I don't...
Sent ourselves?
Yeah, no one really sent us. We've kind of gotten tangled up in this strangely. We've had something stolen from us that we're trying to recover. It's a whole ordeal.
I really just want the best for everybody. You included.
Well, the best for me would be, she just sort of like...
Stack?
Yeah, she sort of like indicates at one of the high half high half windows with barred grates, and she's sort of like indicating the best for me would be to get outside.
Happy to have that conversation on your behalf.
We can have that. Oh, you mean they're not letting me out? Unless you're getting me out. Again, she's whispering this.
We don't currently have the authority to let you out. As we're leaving, I could cast invisibility on you, and you do you, but that's much.
I can make you so stealthy and so quiet, and that's muttered very much also under the breath, so guard cannot hear.
I've started like swishing my feet back and forth just to make some white noise to help, and not like being sneaky about it. I'm making it clear that I'm trying to help her, not. I'm helping the conversation not be heard.
You don't necessarily. I rolled just a general perception for the guard who's standing outside the door. I'm not saying that they picked up any details, but you do hear a spear clang on the wall behind you, saying, "Stop whispering in there." An awareness that you're mumbling your words from the outside. Not saying that they picked up any details.
Sorry. Discussing personal information. We'll happily speak up from this point going forward.
As Strahda's saying that, I will say directly to her, we can't promise to get you out, but if you help us, we will make it our mission to help you. We just want to help the peace. And
I'll provide a little
peace
wink.
includes freedom.
And how exactly do you plan on doing that?
Well, what are your thoughts about your current leader?
Strukel. He's... I'm just going to copy paste that right away. He's stubborn. Being frank, we started this operation just, a few months ago, and he bit off more than he could chew, reached for the sun, and we all got burned for it. I think they're all just holed up right now trying to ride this out, but that's not going to help. We had a good thing going, and he won't let go of it.
Is he the only one who feels that way?
No. Well, I mean, I've been in here for a bit, but frankly, it was... She sort of looks at you as if gauging how much to say. If two of you could roll independent persuasion checks, this is just sort of a trust vibe.
I will take one of those.
Sure, that makes sense. I'd say either... I kind of feel Aesop or Drada for the second.
I would say not me, because I wasn't able to even start the conversation.
Sure.
So
I'll do it. They've historically gone so well.
I mean, we're rooting for you.
We just love rolling dice. Hey, there you go.
I mean, that's great. Can I? I'm reading through some of my spells. Can I just I don't know. It's an instantaneous sound, but maybe like a sound to help through thaumaturgy to try to distract the guard, or keep our voices from being heard too much.
Thaumaturgy kind of creates sound, and so it's I mean, you could. It might also draw attention. What is that? What's that noise?
Yeah.
So you tell me.
I'm gonna keep thinking about it.
Okay. But she sort of eyes you both and says, yeah, there's some animosity last I checked, and frankly a few of us maybe saw it as a growth opportunity to just surrender and get recruited to the best people in town. Hell, I'd move to Flamebridge if it meant joining the Jade Mask.
And is that most of you?
Those of us who were less risk aversive. Some were ready to hang up their coats and just change careers.
I think we'd like to assist with that. The fighting between the two guilds is causing problems for everyone, and it sounds like that's spearheaded by Dukrol and not necessarily benefiting your compatriots.
Well, that's generous. I insist that I have some future, though. You know, that's all good and well for the town, but what's it mean for me?
Well, didn't you just say that some of you would be better off going to Flamebridge?
And she sort of like, at this point, she sort of stood up and we sort of approached you more closely. And she put her hands on the bars, the locked door that she's behind, and sort of shakes it, and says, "It would be if I wasn't in here."
I mean, talking to the unifiers, you've only got like 4 months in here. That's not that long. And
yeah, but
once you're out, I mean, we can put in a good word with, Jade Mask and
how are you going to do that?
Can I cause some noise to happen outside the room?
You may, yeah, feel free.
So it says I can create instantaneous sound that originates from a point of your choice within range. So I'm going to stand up, and through the grated window in the door down the hall, I'm just going to cause some like murmuring, some like discussion happening down the hall away from the guard. Maybe, hopefully, to distract him.
Roll a performance check.
Okay.
This is sort of like, sound is sound, but it's sort of
right.
like, how do they tell the origin of where that sound is, and are you able to kind of throw your voice effectively?
I was waiting for something to be significantly said during the conversation to try this. But 23.
Okay, so down, like past the grates, actually leads into an open passage that leads into the sort of common area where there was sort of a number of other people sitting and chatting. What sort of sound do you want to make down there? You've effectively thrown your voice, but what kind of sound do you want to make down there to draw that attention?
Could I do a shout of some kind? Like someone yelling, like, ah! Like a automatopoeia sound happening down the hallway.
Sure. I think that this is very cool, so I'm going to let it happen. I will say that like you can't like, ah is the sound. You can't really like create words, but I will say like the sound of like ah is not a word.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely like this like a sound that's sort of down that hallway, and you hear the person who's sort of immediately at the door, sort of like the sound of somebody who's grabbing an armored fist around a spear, says, "Oh, what happened?" And sort of you hear like feet tumbling away from the door.
I'm like, guys, we got a little bit of time without anyone by the door. Make it quick, make it fast.
I mean, are we actually considering trying to break this guy out?
Listen, we're not going to have to. Here's the deal. You help us get the city back to peace, and the city will owe you a favor, and you won't be in here anymore. I know that it's not ideal, and working for the city isn't your favorite thing, but help us convince them to let you go.
I don't think
we have...
I'm sorry. I don't think that the city is as compassionate as you think they are.
Then we'll break you out.
As far as
we'll try diplomacy first, and then We have some skills.
We have, give or take, not gonna look through the calendar to confirm this, but a week here regardless. You might be waiting a week longer, but by the end of a week, no matter what happens, you should be out of some bars.
She sort of narrows her eyes and says, "What kind of help are you asking for anyway? You realize I can't leave."
Who should we talk to orchestrate this? A mass exodus and joining of the Flame Bridge, not Flaming Fist.
Yes.
What a great name, though.
Oh, yeah.
Why are we the left stars? We could be the Flaming Fist, goddamn.
The Jade Mask.
Well, you can convince Strukel.
Where would we find Strukel? Or how do we set up a meeting with them?
She sort of, in this moment, you hear that, like, and by the way, just if two of you want to roll perception checks to hear kind of how much more conversation is happening outside.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Since that's kind of my job at the moment.
And I'll have Clax do it as well, just because he hasn't really been talking.
Not too bad.
Okay. Yeah, Clax is just sort of observing. He's more perhaps on edge in this situation. But you sort of attune your ears to the outside, and it's sort of like a chaotic room of like, what happened? Nothing. What are you talking about? Like, and then it's like, I thought I heard something. And then it sounds like they're wrapping up. Like I guess, like you hear the voice of like, I guess you guys, you're fine. And you know that you have like probably 15-20 seconds tops to make this deal without prying ears returning. And in that moment, she sort of like sticks her hand through the cage and says, I'll tell you where. You make this promise. I'm out of here in a week.
Got 15 seconds.
Yeah, we'll get you out of here within a week.
Do you grab her hand? Like she's like looking for the handshake in this moment.
Sure. I will shake her hand.
I think Drada awkwardly, like a half second later, is like, "Oh shit, that's what you were trying to do," and puts out the hand, and then it's like, "Oh no, oh already on it." Okay, great, cool.
Go and roll me persuasion, just cause. I'm not saying that you can fail, but it's more about how she feels about the situation. Okay, well, she sort of like looks you dead in the eyes, and this is all happening in a moment. The 15 seconds have not passed. She sort of looks at you guys, like clasps your hand and says, "Silver District, north end of town, big warehouse, doesn't have any windows, lots of boxes, just off the main road, about an hour if you're coming south." The only one. Just if you go 2 hours, you'll miss it.
Thank you.
And she sort of releases her hand as you hear this footsteps of a guard returning into position outside the door.
Does she look well fed? Like, does she look hungry?
You can insight or medicine check.
Yeah.
There you go.
She looks well fed, but you can tell that she's a bit bruised up. Like sort of untended healing from maybe recently, probably within the last few days.
as we turn to go, I will offer her, hopefully sneakily, I'm not trying to be showing this off, but a sneaky healing word.
What does that look like, out of curiosity? I feel like we might have described it before.
So I would think, because everything Mouse does is kind of star focused, that like as she speaks and says something kind of ethereal, it's almost like her breath shimmers a little bit as it goes and wraps around the woman. I will cast it so that I mark off the spell slot.
Cool. As that sort of hits her, you see the bruises sort of... It's fine. It's fine. She's had long rests. This is less about the hit points and more the...
Jester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the bruises sort of start to fade, and she sort of nods in gratitude to you and says, well, I suppose I'll be seeing you soon then.
See you in a week.
Ideally less.
As we're leaving, in another act of Drada's exceptional acting ability, Drada turns around and just goes, and stay out, as if trying to be like, yeah, we told you, and then winks and leaves the room.
She sort of just like gives you a shake the head, questioning look, but nonetheless sits back down and resumes her position. And as the door is sort of open for you as you call to get out, and she is sort of just like locked eyes with sort of each of you as you leave, laying in bed before she just eventually turns her head back up and starts throwing the rock again as if nothing happened.
When she in this room, just so I'm kind of clear on it, was she separated from us? Like,
there's like 3 cells in this room, and she was locked behind one of them. The guard who's sort of at the door and opened it for you say, got everything you need?
Yes, very appreciate it.
Sort of nods and sort of like points forward for you guys to go down the hallway where you came. And he just sort of like, and you guys are led by a number of other people who escort you back out of the building. And you hear him just sort of as you're turning the corner out of view of where, out of the door where Umber is, you sort of just hear the guard just sort of like tap his spear against the door and peek in to check on her. But you guys leave. And yeah, the rest of the
as
day
we're
is yours.
leaving,
Sure.
Mouse is doing her best to map the map the prison and kind of the ins and outs, and if there are any hallways or turns that she thinks could lean outside that she doesn't see direct exits, she's mentally preparing in case they have to do a breakout.
Roll me investigation, just sort of getting what you can in the sort of time that you're being escorted out. Okay. I will say, the only exit that is sort of designed to be an exit is the door that you guys came into. There are within the sort of common area, there are several windows that would sort of be a shortcut into the jail cell. But the jail area itself, there doesn't seem to be any immediate ways out. I will let you know once you choose to kind of come back. If you do, I will kind of give you a preview of the map so that you can sort of design your approach.
I guess now that I am sort of thinking this train of thought through, did the bars in those cells look far enough apart that someone my size couldn't fit through them?
I tend to think, I haven't really considered this, but I tend to think that it feels pretty secure, that perhaps you might be able to squeeze through, but it would be a tight fit and it would be unreliable.
Rada, on a similar line of thought, question just again, like, how tall and like what are the dimensions of Umber? This is the crude way of putting it, but also the best wording.
I would say she's sort of medium build, sort of like a probably around your size, is what I would say.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
We can have these questions.
Yeah, we can discuss it not inside the barracks, and as you make your way to somewhere else in town. The rest of the day is yours. I will share the location of the place that is sort of indicated to you as here. I'll reveal that sort of marker here in a moment.
I was trying to figure out what building it was on this map, and I was like completely off.
Can we just quickly, on our way, I'll just ask one of the like random guards, like if there's any local caverns or something that they frequent, that has rooms or anything.
Thought we established it was just the stem and the guilty lady, but I could be wrong. I didn't make the town.
Yeah, that's sort of what is given to you as the like places that generally have places that generally accept people from out of town that aren't merchants. You get the impression that there are probably more places, but that they're sort of booked in advance for caravans that come through and for people who need to store their stuff.
Well, we got like a 6-hour walk back to the guilty lady or what have you, if that's where we're going.
Well, is that where you're going? Are you going back?
Here's a proposal, a hot take. Given the size of the bed, stem, also that it was a great bed. More importantly, that if it seems that this warehouse is even further north than where we are now, did it make more sense? I mean, this brings up the larger conversation of what do we want to do tomorrow, but whenever we do want to go to the warehouse, might it make more sense to perhaps be based out of the stem for a day or two?
Yeah, probably.
It's just so expensive.
Yeah, it's fine.
A room?
Clax will probably pay for it.
He did say he'd cover you if he needed to.
I mean, 10 gold in the grand scheme of things is not that bad.
It ain't great either.
And Clark says food is good too.
Sure.
You guys do so. You woke up pretty late, so if you're looking to get back on a normal schedule, you could do that. But you have only really been awake for, I don't know, 10 hours or so, or out and about. So it's sort of, I think more like 11 hours. So, it's up to you on how you want to make use of your time.
I mean, I guess we could try and head to that warehouse now. If we want to.
You just want to scope it out?
I mean, do we think we're trying to talk to him or just go in there and beat up this Stukrul guy, or a rough plan?
Well, we didn't use. I think, Mouse, you're the only one to use a spell. If you're feeling comfortable going in case something were to happen, you're down some magical ability.
I mean, I'm fine. Whatever you guys want to do.
I'm game for going in.
Anybody have a good way of, like, just incapacitating this guy? Like, are we just trying to, like, arrest him, potentially?
We could, but we also might have to deal with his supporters. Whether they are probably far and few between, there are probably still some that he has.
We
I
want.
think-
Sorry, ASAP, go.
No, we might need to scope out the room if we're going in right now before we make any rash decisions.
I think, yeah, I wish we got the name from Umber of if there's anyone we could connect to on the outside who we might be able to help begin a uprising, a coup, or whatever the term would be. So it doesn't feel like, hi, we're this outside force is coming, you should reform your institution. It could feel like it's more from the inside.
Right.
Right.
So are we off?
Yeah. Are you? So you're going to go scope it out, is what I'm sort of gathering.
Love a scope.
I think at the very least, yeah. Check the place out, see what it looks like.
If one of you could just give me an investigation check. You know, I marked it on the map because I did, but I still kind of want to see how efficient you are in finding it.
I can roll that.
Okay, yeah. Without much issue, you know, the way that Umber had sort of given you directions was as if you were going from the north gate to the south. Okay, I was a little off in my description now that I actually measure it, but without needing to sort of go there and sort of follow in the more specific directions that you were given, you just sort of guesstimate, like, oh, it should be around here somewhere, and you find a what seems to be, and this is probably, let me see, from here, starting to get towards those twilight hours, as you sort of find this sort of large storage building that has that seems to be, it's kind of like Walmart in scale, is that it's like, it is good 20 feet tall and just seems to otherwise be this big cube that goes back probably 100 feet, like about a 100 by 100 foot, like cubish building, and this is sort of just, you know, it has sort of the telltale signs of kind of like wagon marks that are going into several doors in the building, several like large wooden double doors that sort of would take things in and out of it. But at the moment, it does seem like everything is closed up.
Like closed up as in the doors are locked, or just darkness inside?
Well, I mean, so there are no windows.
No, that's right.
And
Yes.
the doors are, closed, so I can't tell you if they're locked unless you're going to go try jiggling them.
And there's no one outside as far as we can see.
It does not appear to be outside. And actually, let me correct myself. There are windows that are that are sort of kind of, they're not like big open windows for viewing on the inside. These are windows that are positioned upwards to let light in. And so about like 5-10 feet up, there are windows that similar to those like half windows for the prison that are sort of just, they're really not probably easy to squeeze into, but there clearly are sort of like these grates that are probably designed to let light in, but not necessarily to be like opened. But it seems to be, from your ability to perceive things right now, it seems that the place is closed.
Are there any nearby like buildings that look either abandoned or like a business that's closed down clearly for the night or anything like that?
Around here, there are sparse, sort of, really any other buildings. It seems like there's a coach house that has, you look in the distance and it seems like there's a number of horses that are sort of stabled, and that there are just a kind of like smattering of like kind of non-impressive houses that are not directly next to this warehouse, but are just sort of in the spread amongst the trees throughout this area. It's very sparse, or not a very dense area for buildings compared to the Gold District, where there's a lot of like buildings that are close to each other. There's a lot of like meadowland in this district, it seems. And this one building kind of stands out among the houses far away just because of its scale.
So there's not like a building that looks like we could potentially easily like break into and hide out in for a little while, just watching this place.
I mean, if you're looking for a vantage point, I would certainly allow you to do that. But what you see, what I'm sort of explaining, is that there's like this stable, and then there's other houses, and so you could find, there's like trees and stuff. There's sort of places you could hide behind, and it's dark out, so you don't know that any of these other places would get good foot traffic. It's kind of up to you on how you want to approach it.
Be game for more of a stakeout than going guns blazing.
Maybe we can learn something first before we go into.
If that means, making some friends with some horses, or love a good tree. Love a good tree.
Wait, are we fighting them? I thought we were just trying to convince them that most of them should defect.
It seems a lovely intent, and somehow I have doubts that the leader of a crime organization who is benefiting from the crime organization's operations and continued operations will be willing to just say, without a fight, even if there is more of a revolt. Maybe that's a cynical view, but
I think it's more of a, unfortunately, realistic view of what might happen when we get in there. Because we are outsiders asking a crime organization who has been here to convert themselves.
Well, and even if we, can hide out for a little bit outside until one or two of them leave and, talk to them, get them to start potentially, spreading the word or something like that.
Some friends.
Find out if, Spookroll is even in right now. Maybe they're out and about somewhere. Or is there something we could do to get them to leave temporarily? Or something.
Clax sort of speaks up and says, and he sort of like taps on the edge of his battle axe when he says this, and he says, "There's many ways to convince somebody, but to be clear, we break in. We probably shouldn't kill any of them."
Is fair.
I'm hoping we don't break in as much as convince them to let us come in and talk. But I don't know how well it would go over if we just knock on the door.
What if you just change the way you operate entirely? Yeah, maybe not the best of thoughts.
I mean, some of them would be on board.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be willing to. Yeah, I think your thought of perhaps studying, making some friends, quote unquote, or at least trying to find some sympathetic voices who can then espouse these views for us might be of help. Mouse, you're great at making friends. Seems like an exceptional use of your talent.
Well, so you guys are looking to stake out, is what I'm understanding?
I think so.
Works for me.
Okay. If with your earlier investigation check, I'm just going to keep that because you've got a pretty good lay of the land, and I would say, there's sort of just like a clump of trees across the street that you feel like you could probably get pretty good cover from all sides in. I will still ask for a group stealth check, just to sort of see how well you guys are at hiding. But I will give everybody advantage, given that Flint was able to find a good spot.
Given this type of stealthing, would I have disadvantage from my armor?
No, because it's not sound based. It's just sort of like position based.
Are you asking for the stealth check to be representative of a long duration of time for the entire stakeout? So pass without trace would not be applicable.
Yeah, it's not that kind of stealth check. Yeah, this is just like, where are you standing in relation to the road? Well, Flint's roll was not as great, but it's sort of in the spirit of. Oh wait, yeah. In the spirit of a group stealth check, we have, it's kind of like half and half, but the people who are on the higher end of it seems to roll better. Better than the people on the low end of it rolled bad, so you feel reasonably confident. Maybe if a patrol walked by, or if something happened that you might be spotted, but given the hour and given the activity, you feel pretty confident in your sort of vantage point at the moment. And I'll ask what's, whether it's conversations you want to have or things you want to do, or how long you want to wait. What is it that you're looking for?
If anybody leaves, I want to go be their friend.
I'd say Drada's looking less to make friends, but more looking, depending on how long we stay, for any regular patterns of movement, or if we see anyone who looks like they could be big boss man. If we could pick up anything on him.
I will be support from behind. If anyone leaves, I will throw an inspiration on them.
Okay. An hour goes by. So far, you have not seen anything. I'm counting down for the purposes of sort of your awakeness, you still probably have a good, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours before you should really get to bed. And so the later this, and you could, you could go longer if you wanted to or needed to, or you could try to camp out here if you wanted to. But I'm just letting you know that time is passing.
How far are we from the stem? Is that? Just measure that.
About like 2.5 hours ish.
Okay.
If we are in a less populated part of town, would it be worth starting the conversation? Would it be worth having the conversation to see? Would we want to camp out like in a meadow or something overnight?
I'm guessing the locals wouldn't love that, but
Which is fair. I'm just thinking pure logistics.
yeah, I mean we could attempt to stealth camp.
Stealth camp.
I mean,
Out the stem feels reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, Clack says that's one way to do a stakeout is to just have surveillance on a place all day, which requires some sort of being stationary for that long.
All right, I mean we can try and sleep in our little spot in the trees here.
Should we, again, Clax just says, well, should we just set up watches then and get an early night's sleep now?
Yeah, if anyone wants to leave, please wake me up before you do so I can throw on some advantage for your conversation. Or stealth.
Okay. What would the watch? Assuming everybody's good with this, I don't want to assume, but what would the watches be?
How can take first? Go for it.
I was trying to think through if there was a concern about night vision or dark vision, and if we should group people up accordingly.
Are there light posts or like little like lanterns that are currently turned off or
not
nearby?
Not particularly, but you are actually at the end, like one of the last days of the full moon, so you actually have starlight to sort of to guide you on a night like tonight.
Okay, sorry, I had an idea and I needed to ask. Sorry.
Yeah, so dark vision isn't totally necessary, and I'm not just making this up because I talked about with Jacob about sort of the invisibility that his subclass gets when it's super dark, and so I actually did like establish the moon cycle, and for a short period of time you kind of don't have to worry about that too much. So you feel pretty confident that that's not an issue tonight.
Okay.
So who would? I'll just go ahead and put Clax on a solo watch, just because in case there's any RP between the rest of you. But who would want to take first? Clax will do third watch. Who wants to take first watch?
Mouse can go first.
I can join Mouse.
Okay. So we'll have. Okay.
Correct.
Just moving people for my own organization. Sure. So everybody kind of sets up. Again, the stealth checks were sort of like, not perfect. So the people keeping a watch are sort of both keeping an eye on the building and probably keeping an eye out for any kind of random patrol. But Mouse and Drada, if you want to roll perception checks for your watch.
You betcha.
Sick. Get it.
Okay. Anything you'd like to discuss? Feel free.
Hey, you don't have to talk about it at all if you don't want to. But I'm just, what happened after you took Cassandra? I think we've gone over it briefly, I think, but like, they're okay. You're okay. For now and for the like. Just tell me. Words are hard right now. You're okay, right? They're okay, right?
Yeah, everybody's okay. They're safe. They have a house. I'm gonna let them know when we leave town because I offered in case they, I don't know, need us for something. But she seemed pretty confident that they could watch out for themselves now that they were away from the conflict.
I mean, if you go and make that offer at some point, and if you would feel comfortable bringing me along, I have some questions I'd want to throw their way. If that feels like a violation of trust, like on their part, I totally get it.
I mean, I can probably ask.
I appreciate
that. I don't
that.
think they've mind. They seem to appreciate our openness and our willingness to hear both sides.
We love the gray. I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad they're okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about them.
I'll try.
But kind of while we're on the subject, I mean, I'm never gonna tell somebody else what to do. We all have our own. We all follow our own paths, and no one else really ever fully understands what that looks like. But we are kind of part of a group now, and sometimes when you go off on your own, I think some of us get worried about you.
I can get that. That makes sense. I did what I needed to do right then. I know I try to be more considerate, I guess.
Hey, you're not like in trouble or something. It's just that you can trust people here. And you don't need to feel like you have to go off on your own, and maybe sometimes just invite somebody with you.
Drada nods. I don't think you get a verbal response. After a minute, maybe. Might hit you up for that in future then.
Looking forward to it.
Aww.
Anything else you would like to do?
No.
Yeah, I shoot 4 arrows into the nearest person. Said they're from the Sleight.
Assassination.
LOL.
All right, Flint is dead. Sorry.
Sucks.
Sorry,
That's
Mouse,
true.
is there something you wanted? I couldn't tell.
Nope, mouse is good.
Okay. Nothing happens in the evening. You don't spot anybody coming in or out, unfortunately, and second watch is awoken. Flint and Aesop could roll a perception check. Okay.
Too bad.
Not too bad.
Not amazing. Not the worst.
If there's anything you'd like to discuss.
You've been doing good, Flint? Doing okay with everything?
think so. The whole situation is just a little complicated. I feel.
Which one?
Just exactly. Just trying to navigate all these different guilds, and now we got to break somebody out of prison. And there's vampires in town, and
yeah,
just a lot.
It is a lot.
All over a cast.
All in the same city too, man. Who knew? Jesus. This is a nice distraction from my inevitable responsibility of this competition. But sometimes it does find its way back into my mind.
I mean, I don't know if I would think of that as a responsibility.
I feel like I gotta do good. I gotta do well. If I'm gonna participate in it for the first time, I feel like I gotta do really well, especially if someone sponsored me for it. Definitely don't want to disappoint.
I think you gotta go into it just thinking like you're gonna have fun. I think, if you think you have to do well, it's just too much pressure.
Right.
You just gotta.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you're awesome. You'll be great.
Oh, thank you. And I'm just also a little bit worried about who might be there.
You think you know anybody that'll be there? Do you meet anybody in your Bard College stuff?
I mean, there were in the classes that I took, there were just the oral speakers and the bards who I mainly kind of took classes with, and then my friends, they were all kind of the artsy type. But no, I'm just kind of more like my parents and trying to please them, trying to show that oh hey, I'm actually doing really great on my own. It hasn't really always worked out that way in my life where I was just on my own.
Don't mind me just rolling random dice.
Oh, totally not.
Yeah, definitely nothing to be paranoid about there.
No. Why would you be?
Why?
So I think it's mainly parental stuff. Because I want them to be there, but it's also a double-edged sword of trying to show that I'm doing well and I'm pursuing something that's worth credit.
Yeah, you've mentioned your parents are they're military people or adventurers or something like that.
A little mix of both, for sure. They kind of more work for the military, not particularly in. They are the group that kind of attends to the needs of people affected by a disaster or event, rather than getting themselves involved in trying to stop an event, if that makes sense.
Okay. So if there's an earthquake or something,
right?
I don't know if the earthquake's on a floating or floating island world.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. But if there were earthquakes,
a giant earth elemental just kind of came up from the ground, right?
Fair. They would be the ones to come in and help people.
Right.
Okay.
So it was definitely pursuing a different path than my parents would have liked, but it only adds a little bit more pressure on me.
I mean, you don't sweat it. You gotta be confident. You gotta know going in there you're gonna kill it.
Oh, thank you. And it's definitely helping me knowing that you guys are gonna be there every step of the way.
More ominous dice.
Oh God. It's not saying anything.
This one actually, I'm not saying that nothing happened for the other two, but I'm just sharing. But I'm saying that this one, you actually see. I'm just gonna reveal it because it was a. Can I reveal results? Yeah. Yeah, this one was a natural one. What you hear, without even sort of like looking in the direction with your 10 and 13, it's kind of like you got caught up in the conversation a little bit, but just sort of down the road, coming from the west, you hear an individual who's just sort of like whistling carelessly into the night, and has no perception of you or the sort of like makeshift camp you've set up, but they kind of, this is a, let me see, failing at clicking the things that I need to click. This is a sort of woman who is kind of clad in sort of like dark brown, maybe black, sort of just like workers' clothes. Seem perhaps that they have sort of celebrated a good night. They just seem to be in a good mood, and she's sort of just like whistling her way sort of in your direction, but on the road. You guys are a little bit off the road. But what would you want to do about that?
Does this person look like they're headed towards the Sleights building, or are they just walking down the road?
Currently, they're walking down the road. They would sort of inevitably, were they heading in that direction, they would inevitably like need to turn into it. So you caught them like pretty far down the road because of the noise that they're making. And this is like, you know, you haven't seen anybody all night, and in fact the sky is starting to sort of rise a little bit, so you're not really, it's just an oddity in this part of the night at this moment. You could continue to observe her if you'd like, in the short term.
Are we trying to have a conversation with her, or are we just watching?
Well, if she turns to go into the building, maybe we should like try and approach. Like, we gotta be careful. We can't look hostile or something. But yeah, I think we gotta. I don't think we should run out there if she's not going to the Sleight.
I think we're gonna see if she turns towards the building.
So the point that she would turn towards the building would be the point that she's then ahead of you, and so just sort of sharing that.
Okay.
Like, what kind of position do you want to be in?
Could we sneak over? Yeah, could we sneak over towards the Slight's building so that we are close to it if she turns that way?
You could, yeah. There's not like a whole lot of sort of terrain there, but you could like get around the corner of the, like, hug the corner of the building from the other side and see if she sort of comes through, if you'd like. You both want to just go ahead and roll stealth checks for me?
Sure.
You caught her early enough that, like...
I don't think it's gonna matter.
Oh my.
Oh no.
Oh my.
Oh no. Drona, where are you?
I'm sleeping and I see nothing.
You, unfortunately, you're aware of your shortfall. I will say that it's sort of like the sound of Flint's armor and perhaps like a dry branch that Asa steps on as soon as you're as soon as you're getting off the road, and you're aware that she's aware of you. She's still kind of walking down the road, but she's sort of like is looking. So what do you do?
Do we just like go try and talk to her?
Yeah. I'm gonna give you enhance ability on charisma checks.
Why don't you give you enhanced booty?
Because you need it more than I do.
All right.
Okay. Some spell casting later.
I just put it in the chat.
Sure.
Go ahead and awkwardly walk out from wherever we were, quote, hiding and wander towards her, trying to look non-confrontational.
Go ahead and give me, now that you have advantage on this, give me just a charisma check with advantage.
Both of us, or just Flint?
You can both do it. Flint at advantage, though. Okay, not awful. Despite the magic, Aesop shows you up anyway. But
that's on point.
Yeah, from her perspective, I imagine she just saw these two people stumble from behind a tree, make a bunch of noise, and then this is sort of a situation where somebody's eyeing in the dark night, should I be worried about these people in front of me? And she eventually just sort of resumes her step. And as she sort of gets near you guys, she might be reading into this, you're walking this way and she's walking that way, and she just says, "Good morning." But the intention is that she looks like she's just going to walk past you. It's a casual drive-by. Good morning.
I'm going to, still walking past her, because not trying to appear confrontational in any way, shape, or form, I'm just going to casually say, we had a conversation with Umbar. We need to talk.
Roll a persuasion check. And I'm not telling you that she knows anything. I am just making sure that you roll.
Oh, there's a lot of numbers that went through that dice. Okay, 20.
She walks past you and stops dead in her tracks and sort of turns around and says, "She's okay then?"
She's good. She might even get out sooner than expected. We're trying to help the situation here in town between y'all and the Jade Mask.
And how exactly are you helping?
By trying to get a conversation started with Struble. At least it's the start of it.
Sort of still following your earlier persuasion check, she sort of is eyeing you up and down and says, "And what's in it for you?"
We had, to be completely honest with you, we had something of ours stolen. And so we kind of got ourselves involved rather quickly when we arrived in this city. So
how recently?
This is just within, and this is actually me not knowing as the player.
Yeah,
a week?
few days.
Okay.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, because it was stolen from Dantavius a few weeks ago, if I recall.
Okay, so I'll say a few weeks then in terms of when the house was stolen then. Or was the question how early did we arrive in the town?
Well, she asked what's in it for you, and you sort of explain that you had something stolen. It was stolen a few weeks ago, and she sort of looks and says,
"Okay.
Well, we've been out of business for a good month now, so it wasn't us."
Yeah. We've kind of gotten ourselves sort of just messily tied up in all of this, and I think if we can find any sort of resolution, we are likely to end up with our item back.
She is keeping her distance in this conversation, and
right.
Sort of like assessing you all.
Right.
And so I'll just ask, without any kind of rolls, what is like the posture that you're showing?
Well, I definitely didn't want to be confrontational by stopping in front of her, so I assume we're like in the direction that she was coming from, so she could continue walking forward if she wanted to. But I'm a little. I'll put on a little hunch in my back since I am so tall. I'll kind of try to like hide away my weapon, the sword that I have on my hilt, trying to just like turn away so she doesn't see that I do have a weapon there, or like a very visible weapon there. And other than that, I'm dressed very colorfully, so I hope my persona and clothing itself kind of gives off the charm itself.
Yeah, I think Flint's sort of in a similar boat. Like, he's trying to be non-confrontational and, like, not making it seem like she's in any kind of danger, and just really trying to, assess which side of this she's on. If she's wants to stay, slight, strong, or join the Jade Mask, and really just trying to get a sense for what her feelings on all this are.
Go ahead and roll an insight with that, Flint. But
Not good at
okay. I mean, yeah, you can't necessarily tell from looking alone. You might be able to read into her language, but she sort of looks at you both and says, sure, I could set up a meeting, though I think you're going to walk away disappointed.
Yeah, we've heard
specific details about Struggle.
Yeah,
we've heard they don't seem terribly interested in joining the Jade Mask. Although we've heard rumors that some folks are more amenable to that idea.
If not most.
Give me one more round of persuasion checks from both of you.
You should have advantage.
Yes, correct.
Oh, I'm gonna need it.
Oh my god.
It's almost 19.
So funny.
Well, yeah, Ace, if you may roll one.
No! Wow, how unfortunate.
You guys are telling a story and it's not a kind one.
We're trying our best.
You two don't get to watch together again.
Flint's drunk, apparently.
I'm just off my rocker, off my game.
She kind of looks at you both and says, well, if Umber's sharing all of the details, then frankly wish that she would be less talkative. But listen, I don't know. I have no reason to trust you. I hope you understand that. And would prefer if you stay out of our business. And she sort of like is backing away, like not turning her back to you, but sort of just like taking steps back.
Just a simple conversation is all that we request. Just trying to gauge how to move on from here. And the best way we can do that is by having that discussion.
I say this as gently as I can, but I would prefer that conversation doesn't happen.
kind of look at Flint. I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't. From what we've looked into so far, it doesn't seem like the Jade Mask is going to let up on this. So, I think the question is, do you guys want to just sit here staying out of business or work something out? That's on you. But
She's just kind of giving a stone face at the moment, not
yeah.
revealing.
I mean, our persuasion checks were terrible. All right.
I have nothing else.
Yeah, bye.
There's a level of awareness that she has about like oh my god, my cat just attacked me. I think she's looking for dinner. There's an awareness that this individual has that, this is not a sort of happenstance that you meet in front of this warehouse. And so she sort of backs away, knowingly going into the direction of the warehouse. She has her eyes on you as she is sort of walking in. And at this point, she's several hundred feet away as she's just sort of exited from the scene. Back, like, pulls out some keys and opens up one of the double doors. And assuming that you're not doing anything immediately,
I'm just gonna keep like eyes in her direction, just kind of whisper to Flint, being like, well, she's gonna go straight to Circle about what just happened.
Yeah. Probably should have made that comment about her mother. No, I don't know.
You kind of hear, as the door closes, there's clearly a sound of not just the door closing, but some kind of like, you don't know what sort of like locking mechanism they have, but the it seems that the defenses are being raised, perhaps.
Yeah.
I forget the names of those like wood beams that sort of drop behind doors, but that's sort of what I'm imagining.
I didn't know there was a specific name for that.
Yeah.
Hey, not a natural one. That's brutal.
Yeah, maybe let's go rejoin the others.
Yep.
That probably didn't help. Yeah.
Hey, we tried, that we gave it our best shot, right?
I don't know about our best shot. We gave it a shot.
It was a pretty good shot. It just, the dice were not happy.
You
guys wake up Clax, I assume, fill him in on some of the details. He seems to sort of understand that people need to finish resting before anything can happen, and especially if they're alerted to the group's presence, that it's not really advantageous to go in at this very second. So he resumes his watch, and we will end the game sort of with everybody getting up undisturbed by any kind of passerbys or patrols. I am going to say one thing, though, before we close, is that sort of as you are setting up in the morning, Flint, there is an emerald that's missing from your bag, and it's been replaced by a piece of paper that I'm going to show to you.
Alright.
Which I don't know how to just show it to one person. But it's in the journals tab. It says a letter.
Alright.
And I'll let you read that at your leisure, but that is all we have for tonight's game.
Dang, we ended on a brutal conversation.
Thanks you guys for playing. I'm sorry that these dice didn't work out.
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah.